just to say welcome back after a break. Can I first of all welcome Councillor Karen McCarthy from Birmingham, who's replacing Councillor Sharon Thompson. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you find these meetings interesting, Karen.
I'm sure I will.
And I'm sure you're going to contribute greatly to the board. Just to say, obviously, we've got armistice at 11 o'clock, so we will be stopping the meeting and taking 2 minutes silence at that point. Okay. So getting on to the main part of the meeting then. Can I take any apologies for absence then?
Yes, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor O'Boyle and Sue Summers. Thank you.
Any declarations of interest from anyone? Thank you. Right, we then go to the minutes. Do people accept them as a true record?
Aye.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll just pick up on one point, which is from page 5, where we arranged for the investment board, or certain members of the investment board attended the local homes in relation to the housing collaborative agreement, affordable housing pilot, and it was actually launched at local homes, the building site in Aldridge. So that got off the ground there. The rest actually is picked up in most of the meetings. Sorry, most of the agenda items in here. So we're moving forward quite a bit with some of the items that we've talked about previously. So if everybody accepts those minutes, then we move on to item 4, is the investment programme update from here.
Thank you, Chair. This is the regular item of an update on the investment programme. Funding commitment as at the end of September is unchanged, 848.4 million. The total funding available is 871 million. The balance is made up by expenditure earmarked as contributions as approved by the CA board. Costs incurred or drawings at the end of September were £690.1 million. The previous meeting we had was August. Expenditure was £647.3 million. So there's quite significant expenditure, as you know, in the pack on Metro. Since the last board meeting, officers have used delegated powers to approve business case of change as follows. There are 2. One is the Kersley Link Road scheme, which is a change request, just extending time, not budget. Extends it to the completion date of March 29. That's due to low funding from the FT, I believe. The A452 Chester Road Solihull scheme reallocated unspent money on that project to the same project but at a later stage to develop the ABC, which will allow design work to carry on. And just a quick update in terms of the gateway review requested by HCLG. We're still awaiting clarity about whether an interim review be done. We've been waiting now for 18 months before being engaged. That probably means that it will go to a full gateway review, or integrated settlement may indeed change the way in which we're reporting anyway. But MHCLG needs to tell us where we are with that. That is the extent of commentary, unless there's any questions, Chair.
Do we have any questions at all? Oh,
yeah, thank you, Chair. In terms of some, on page 28, we're showing the A34 Walsall to Birmingham sprint, which is expected to complete on the 30th of June 2025. the concerns from Walsall are there are no contracts in place or no commitment on behalf of the combined authority or Transport for West Midlands or bus operators to order the Sprint low floor tram-like buses at the moment, and highways approval are contingent on the vehicle commitment. So the project, in our eyes, is stalled at the moment. It has no end date. One other comment on page 30 shows the Walsall to Walls rail package is expected to complete 28th of February 26. Opening early 26 is the published date, but under threat at Willenhall because of an unsafe building adjacent to the station works. As a difficulty resolving this issue, changing the station to reflect the danger, so it's put that into jeopardy as well in terms of having fixed timescales and cost approval.
You have any comment here?
That's really dealt with for the Transport for West Midlands colleagues. I can certainly bring an update on those and a bit of clarity if you'd like to know. I haven't unfortunately got the detail myself.
Absolutely fine. It was just a matter, absolutely fine. It was just a matter of raising it that within the pack, it's saying that we've got forward commitments, but we're going to see those drift in terms. So we just like an update on where we see the project, the culmination of the project, and is it going to come to fruition in its entirety?
Yeah, we'll take a note of both those points and make sure we come back. We'll either circulate a bit of a note as an update to board or see if we can bring colleagues to a future meeting. Thank you.
Aaron? Yeah.
Thank you. Given the number of projects that are red rated in this report, is it possible to consider whether a more nuanced and detailed system is needed that gives some indication as to what the red rating is around, whether it's financial, whether it's delay, whether it's external factors. Otherwise, to somebody who's new, it's quite scary. Thank you.
Karen, you pick up an immediate point which stares you in the eye, but as a new person to the board, you'll actually find that that's been addressed in this pack. There are two reports. There was some long outstanding items both in Coventry and Solihull where we were pressing to try and get answers. We've got a complete report from Solihull this morning, and also I think we've had change requests come through from Coventry, which are being processed. So that should give you a little bit of comfort in terms of seeing those reds across the reports that they have been brought back to this meeting.
Okay. And a little review.
Yeah.
It's a really good observation, Councillor. Yeah. We tried, and it was a few years ago, to have that sort of detailed breakdown about what report and a dashboard, what were the specific issues and specific schemes, because it could be many varied and degrees of. The dashboard itself became something that was so convoluted that actually members found the investment board at the time found it quite difficult to work with, and actually it almost became counterproductive because we didn't really have any questions on it because we had this rather bizarre dashboard. What we moved to is a relatively simple flag, whereas where I try and say at each monthly meeting what are the causes of that. It's usually delay rather than budget. That's usually, so when I come to the statement about the dashboard, that's usually where I try and cover that off. That said, we are hopefully working with something that we can try and introduce at least a financial category. So we'll have a delay or there's a budget issue with it. It's usually due to the investment programme tends to fund part of the funding, and then there's funding from other sources. We cap out and we don't allow further drawings on the investment programme commitment. It's up to the sponsors to find other funding, which they usually do. Sometimes there might be an unresolved issue of a gap And that source, that's what I'd like to try and capture in the future, and we are trying to work on whether we can do that or not. But it's a very good observation.
Can I just ask one question, Ed? I don't know whether you know whether what the feedback has been from the finance directors of the various constituent members so far. Or Linda, on the additional contribution into the investment board going forward.
So the investment programme itself is capped and limited at the 871 million, because that was the amount we could purchase from the 2016 devolution deal. They gave us 30 years of 36.5 million in that deal, which turns into a capital buying power of 871 million. So that's the investment programme, and that is capped. What the conversation with the finance directors is around the collective investment and residential investment funds, and that's a revolving fund that we fund through borrowing. It's capped currently at 210, although we did allow a little bit of temporary headroom over the last 6 months just to get some critical projects through. We've taken several reports through the finance directors, who are mindful to support us increasing the headroom on that fund, given the low levels of risk that we're carrying with that fund. It will then be subject to obviously a conversation with the mayor and the leaders, and into we'll take a board report in January to the CA board to formally ask for that headroom to be increased. So it'll be January where we look at actually formalising a decision.
The response presumably has been fairly positive.
Positive in terms of so we're looking at an increase up to a maximum of 300 million, and it's 210 at the minute, which will give a good amount of headroom in the fund that we manage. It was received very positively. Obviously, we get high levels of security on the funds. We make sure that we've got all the right contracts in place. The funds managed very tightly between FDC and Ian, so we haven't had any defaults or anything like that. And obviously, it goes as to market rate as well. So everything, Touchwood is very positive on the fund, which is why the FDs were minded to actually increase that headroom, which is a very good results, I think, because actually in the current financial climate, to increase the level of risk that you are carrying is a very difficult decision for the finance directors, but they recognise the good that the fund does and the low level of risk, but it will be subject to the January board decision.
Thank you for that, Linda. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, just to add some context, because I think it could be lost easily. In essence, the investment programme, as agreed in the original devolution deal, was set at a figure which was funded through the annual contribution from government of 35.7 million. We capped it because, in essence, we couldn't borrow any more against the revenue funding we were getting. There is an issue that needs not to be lost, and that is, in essence, because we have a long-standing commitment to the whole investment programme, it was subsequently agreed by the board that any new funding which came into the combined authority that was not ring-fenced by way of a grant would actually be considered to actually deliver the investment programme that originally agreed by the combined authority. And the combined authority leaders agreed that those priorities would still remain. And as you quite rightly said, Chair, today we see at least one of those programmes, that is the UKC programme, coming back to the board to understand where we are with regard to that, because basically the funding wasn't fully available to deliver all of the proposals that were in that. And again, just to add some context, some of these are extremely complex schemes. Not only do they have a relationship with other people who need to be able to move their elements, HS2 being a classic example. We've suffered major delays because of constraints with the HS2 contract. But in essence, I think we're now quite clear, certainly from the Solihull perspective, what we're asking for today with regard to rephasing, which obviously Perry will give us a briefing on, with regard to a commitment that was given £636 million, if I recall, in the original devolution deal to deliver the UKC programme for Solihull. I'll stop at that point.
Let's now report. The actual decision will be taken voting in the next budgetary meeting or reminder.
Sorry. So the two different funds.
Yeah.
The 871 million is capped.
Yes.
That will be if new funds become available,
Yeah.
then there is an outstanding scheme within that original investment
Yes.
programme relating to Solihull.
Yeah.
There was another outstanding scheme that was in that bit that was unfunded, which was Wednesbury to Briley Hill Metro.
Yeah.
Now that has been funded by other sources now, but actually the one scheme that does remain outstanding of that original 2 billion
Yeah.
is the 631 million for Solihull. That won't be funded by the revolving investment fund. That is a commercial returning loan fund for developers.
Yeah.
What this needs funding from is actually future resources, as Councillor Slay said there, that become available to the authority. And there was a commitment that actually that the authority would look to continue to fund that when future funding becomes available. And the one thing we've been looking at through there is around the opportunities around the investment zones.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you for that clarification, Linda. Are there any other questions from anybody? No. Well, the report is for noting. There are 3 recommendations, 1.1 to 1.3. You all accept those? Yeah. Thank you very much. We move on to item 5 then, which is one of the 2 reports that relates to the red risks that you mentioned, Karen, and that's the Coventry South Transport package. I'll throw over to John Seddon.
Yep, thank you, Chair. So I'm John Seddon from Coventry City Council. On my left, Nicola van der Hoven from Warwickshire County Council, who is leading the delivery of Sternley Junction. And obviously, these schemes on Coventry South package are very much cross-boundary between Coventry and Warwickshire because of the tight boundary we've got on the south side of Coventry. So in terms of purposes of bringing this report back in, relates to the Coventry South package in particular. And we've also got City Centre First, very light rail and Cov North package. And I think just highlighting some of the points that Councillor McCarthy was making, Ian's already alluded to on the Coventry North package, the change request for Kersley Link Road. And that is purely around delays in delivery of that scheme associated to pace of development, which that scheme needs to be delivered in conjunction with in terms of major residential development. So that's one of the issues you can come across when programming schemes like that. On Coventry South package, comprises A46 junctions at Brindley and Walsgrave, which are national highways to deliver. Brindley's been completed, Walsgrave, they're working towards a development consent order application, so they're bringing that through with the aim of delivering that in 27 to 29 available time. Tyrohall Station is the 3rd element, which is part of the CRUST package. So it's been taken into the CRUST programme and we're reporting on progress through there, delivering it with TFWM. And then the other 3 elements relate to A46 Link Road, Sternley Junction's the first phase. Phases 2 and 3 would then extend the Link Road around the south side of Coventry. And again, that's something which colleagues in Solihull were tied in with as well, because obviously landing point on the network will be within the Solihull area. And the Coventry South Interchange, which is new railway station on the Coventry Kenilworth line. In terms of sort of Sternley Junction, that's been specifically funded with 6.6 million contribution from the investment programme from the CA, DFT funding through Growth Deal, and then contributions locally from Warwickshire County Council from the Rural Capital Programme and Section 106. And the CA funding has already been spent on delivering the scheme at its current status. I'll come back to Nicola in a sort of minute or so just to sort of work through the details of where Warwickshire are in terms of delivering the scheme and the difficulties that have been encountered in terms of the completion date. So as Nicola's far closer to that than himself. But in terms of change control request, we'll be coming back with that once we've got further information on the date. We don't want to keep coming to a change of control every second meeting, or whatever. We want to make sure we've got the right information there. Phases 2 and 3 of the link road follow on from the Stoney Junction being completed. We had an OBC which went to DFT to sort of try and secure large local funding for it. That wasn't a strong enough business case at the time. And really, it's linked in with what development takes place on the area south of Coventry and into Warwickshire. Warwick District Council are currently reviewing their local plan, and until we've got a firm grip on what land allocations might be coming over and above what we already know is allocated, then that will influence the business case and the design for the link road. So we're sort of very much waiting on the outcome of that local plan work before we. So we're taking it as far as we can with the scheme development cash that we've used to date. We know, broadly speaking, what the route options are there for both phase 2 and phase 3. But until we've got that land use information, we don't know. You know, we can't refine the final design of the scheme, how it fits in with that development coming forward. And then on the Coventry South interchange, there's been a number of studies relevant to that particular sort of station site. Say it's between sort of Coventry and Kenilworth, and on the Coventry to Leamington line. Warwickshire County Council carried out initial feasibility study saying that yes, there's a good business case there, but it needs a lot of infrastructure to make it work in terms of the rail service patterns. That's been confirmed by work that Midlands Connect have been carrying out on the strategic connectivity from Birmingham Airport area down to the Thames Valley and that whole cross-country network, if you like. But that's really identified, it's a single track line. It needs double track to make a new station work, sort of in terms of timetabling there. And that is not an easy or cheap scheme to do. And you know, so the final element is sort of West Midlands Rail Executive undertook some work using trust funding on the initial business case for new railway stations across the West Midlands region, the wider region. Coventry South was part of that. It's not one of the top priority stations which WMRE have identified to bring the business case forward on. So the upshot of that is we can't really see the Coventry South station coming forward because of those infrastructure needs and those competing priorities. And I'm sure, as the board even mentioned about Rinnenhall Station, everyone knows what the challenges are in the rail industry in terms of programme management. So we'll be coming back with a change request, which will basically put in delivery of Coventry South back to a realistic date, which is going to be, you know, through the 2030s probably. Nicola, and back to yourself, do you want to just give a bit more of the background in terms of the Stoney Junction works, where we are with the construction phase and the contracts and the work that Warwickshire are doing to sort of to firm up that completion date?
Okay.
Thanks for inviting me to speak this morning. So the A46 Stoney Junction scheme, I don't know if this is a junction that you will necessarily go through particularly regularly, but it's quite a crucial one. Oh, okay, good, that's fine. It's quite a crucial one in the routing from traffic to and from Leamington and Warwick to the south of Coventry and back. And there's quite a lot of employment and education purposes, reason why people are using that junction quite regularly. So the overall plan is to put a gyratory junction in where previously was just a single bridge across the road and quite a lot of congestion and people trying to turn right across each other. So there's quite a lot of reasons to do this. We've started work on this in 2020, and for those who've gone through it, you'll see that we've got so far, and actually we've got really quite a long way through the construction process. So the new bridge is there and in place. The new roundabout at the end of Dalehouth Lane is there, and the routing of traffic coming off the A46 now allows people to come round without having to turn right across each other. So actually is quite a good throughput of movement. But the bridge is sitting in isolation. There's no connection of that to the rest of the gyratory, and that is kind of where we've got to at the minute. So what's happened is, as we were preparing that, and there's probably all sorts of reasons why this has happened, it's become apparent that the material which sits behind the abutments, which forms part of the structural elements of the scheme, has been really, really difficult to source. I'm sure there's lots of reasons for that. I'm sure that probably HS2 and all of their drawn material might be part of that, but I don't know for a fact. And the short version is that it's not possible to get exactly what we're expecting there. So we have gone back, we're re-looking at what that structure, so the structure either side of the embankments is going to look like and what therefore the backfill material is. And there's a number of different approaches which are being developed at the moment, because actually what we all need to do is get to a point where we can start construction again and then finish, because that will be much better for the network. So as you can probably imagine, this has created a delay, which is difficult then for contractual relationships. So we're working really closely with the contractor. We are working through what we need to do, and we're hoping to get back on site again next year. But what we'd really like to do is get through this, which is completing all of the design, completing the approvals. This bridge will be a National Highways asset ultimately. So there's an approval process with National Highways. You'll know how close we are to HS2 there as well. So there's quite a lot of interface with HS2 in terms of how the traffic management routing is going to happen and the kinds of works that they're doing and how our junction impacts on that and their routing in and out of their site. So so working through all of that, and we will hopefully in the sort of fairly near future be in a position where we can come back and say quite confidently, right, okay, this is what's going to happen next. We'll be on site and then we'll be expected to be completed by this date. And in the meantime, all of the work that's taking place on site is to complete everything else that is left over, so that when we come back to do the works, the last thing to do, put the rest of the bridge connection in place, complete the traffic signals that's going to control the junction, and then done.
For that information. So it all sounds quite complex, but the HS2 obviously with the proximity is obviously causing problems in more ways than one by the sound of it. Do we have any questions, please?
Only a comment. It's really only a comment. I mean, you know, these schemes are absolutely critical to the West Midlands. You know, the whole infrastructure issue around the A46 Stoneleigh Junction, and I think we all struggle with some of the relationship issues to actually get information to be able to move out, you know, think forward. I'm just really trying to understand what actually unlocks this for you, because I think there's a lot of what you said is in essence we would look forward to this, but I'm not quite sure actually what the nub of the issue is for you to get this this project really up to a completion stage, which it says in the report 2025, I think. But you know, is that realistic? And do you need us to do anything to help you really?
Okay, thank you. Yes, we would hope it would be complete in 2025. I think the reality is we do need to get to a point where we've got full approval before we can confirm exactly when the scheme is going to start and then complete again.
Okay.
In terms of, you're right, there are lots of interdependencies here. Yes, it's National Highways. We're also very close to main rivers, so there's all sorts of underlying aquifers and other complexities that are creating challenge. Fundamentally, we need a design that's going to be accepted by National Highways. We're quite a long way through that process,
Right.
but we do need to follow that process through, so that we have full approval at the end of it, and that is just a question of completing all of the details. So
yeah, and I suppose my other question is, you know, the impact of HS2. I mean, how fundamental is that to understand what their objectives are to you to actually unlock this program? And we'll come on to some of our concerns that we've had over the year, but just where are you really? Because it's often very difficult to obtain the right level of information you need to be able to take your program forward. I'm not saying that they're not doing a good job. What I'm saying is it's just how that impacts on your ability to deliver what you're required to deliver. And again, using this board to influence where we can to unlock some of these issues, particularly around programs, land release, and all the other stuff that we quite clearly know about. Just a perspective, really.
okay, so I'm quite happy with the relationship that we have with HS2 at the moment. So we have every other week meetings with them, which is talking about how the traffic management arrangements between the two run. So we've had some shared traffic management on the A46, which has been really helpful. So there's a good degree of working together happening. And for us, it's mostly about understanding where they are in their program, because they've got some key activities on the network which will come at some point in the next year. Okay. So it's seeing how that links together, because that will affect access to our site, I think, at some point. But yeah, I'm quite happy that we've got a good link and.
Yeah, okay, that's good, thank you.
Ian would like to ask a question from the technical aspect.
Yeah, thank you for the update. It's all kind of understood. It's more kind of technical, not in kind of talking about what type of aggregate to put behind a bridge support, but kind of more technical from a point of view of managing the programme. So it is technical in that respect. The WMCA is required to show good stewardship of public money. We are responsible for that. We do need change requests going as formal documentation of the fact we've considered and reviewed. It's very good in a forum like this that councillors are able to hear what's actually happening generally in the project and take some comfort and be able to speak to sponsors about that. But technically the change request programme and the way we deal with that is our evidence to government that we are responsible for £36.5 million a year we receive. If we don't show that, there's a risk to it. So even though I absolutely appreciate that we've got undetermined timescales on projects, if we don't have the documentation through, it is really a very poor look with government, and therefore we do need the documentation. Showing things that have been on red on a dashboard for well over a year is not a great look. And as a result of that, that will be something that will be picked up by MHCLG. And it's not even when you go an expiry of March 23, obviously there's a forecast before that you know it's not be achieved by March 23, and therefore we should be receiving documentation in good time, not after an expiry that was unachievable. So it'd be really helpful to the CA and generally all members if we could have a change request, even if that's the update on the risks, confirmation benefits are still there, confirmation about funding will be required in the future that there's confidence in terms of being met, so we can evidence it. If we can't evidence it, we might be in all sorts of trouble. I'll shut up at that point. Hopefully the point is made. We really need to put that in.
I think Ian's picked up a point I was going to ask, which is when's this change request going to be coming in? I've got a when next to 4.17.
I think on that, say I've been trying to balance not coming of a change request every meeting. To make sure,
March 23, John,
Yeah.
March 23.
yeah, but, to make sure we've got the right information in there, and so we can bring a change request forward.
Please do.
It's just that caveat around
Give
certainty on the date.
yourself sufficient timescale and then outline why it's uncertain, and the fact it could be brought forward is perfect.
Yeah.
It just deals with it from our point of view.
And from your point of view, would you prefer, because I would say the 846 and think,
Yeah,
we
well,
can treat it as one programme, but do a separate change request for Coventry South interchange?
Let's make sure the programme assurance and appraisal team at the CA is talking to you about the correct format for that. If that's okay, we'll take it outside the members' meeting.
Okay, so that covers up one of the issues. Does anybody else have any questions? The only question I would have is in relation to the commitment to be coming forward from Warwickshire County Council. Obviously, there's a financial commitment there that is set within the grant funding agreement. Is Warwickshire County Council in a position to actually fulfil that?
Sorry, could you just say that again?
Does any overspend in 4.9 says any overspend against the original scheme budget will need to be met by Warwickshire County Council under the terms of the grant funding agreement? I feel that there is going to be a overspend. I would imagine that there will be. If there's going to be a rarity of some of the materials that you're talking about, there's going to be an additional cost to all of this. Are Warwickshire County Council in a position to find any additional cost if it's needed?
Warwickshire is very grateful for the fundings which it's had from a number of sources, but yes, it will need to fulfil its own obligation.
Right. So no other questions? Right, on that basis, we'll take the decision that the update provided with respect to the Coventry South Transport package. We considered it and any comments relayed back to the scheme promoters. So in this particular instance, we're asking for a change request to be made available in the near future, please. Okay, thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we go on to agenda item 6, which is UK Central Infrastructure Programme rebasing and update to board, which is the all elements of this program, which is the biggie. That's where most of the red come from. So I'll throw over to Alexander Heath, please.
Good morning, members. Thank you, Chair. I'm Perry Wardle. I'm the acting director. It's all right, for economy and infrastructure at Solihull Council. This is my colleague Alexander Heath, who's the programme development manager for the UK Central scheme. So I'm just going to briefly set off with a presentation, and then Alex is going to go through some individual projects. I think that's the request that we'd received for this morning. I think Alex is going to try and, sorry, are you going to share it on the screen?
I think I am. I don't know if I need to be let.
If you've joined the meeting.
Yeah, I mean.
If you could just share your screen and it will show. You should have that at the top, share. Yeah, it's on the screen. If you want to make it bigger, it's
Thank you, Chair. I thought it might be helpful to have next to see which slide we're talking about. Sorry, thank you. Okay, thank you. So, thank you for inviting us this morning. So the presentation has got two parts. Firstly, it's to explain the change request, which seeks to rebase the timings for the projects in the UK Central Infrastructure Package. This was submitted in June, is being dealt with through delegated arrangements. And the second part is to give an update on the various projects that sit within that package. I'll cover the introduction and Alex will go through the individual projects. So what is UK Central, I suppose, is the first question, just a reminder, particularly for new members to the board. It's a major programme of investment, development, promotion, regeneration and economic growth in Solihull, but very much on behalf of the region as well. In terms of the conversation today, there are three main geographical areas in Solihull that the package focuses upon. That's the UK Central Hub, bit in red, in the centre of the screen where you can see the airport. So you've got the icon of the airplane for the airport. And the hub is already a huge economic centre for the region. So it comprises Jaguar Land Rover, probably 10,000 employees on that site there, just beneath the airport, alongside the A45 between Birmingham and the hub area. It also includes Birmingham Business Park, the NEC. It includes a new proposed employment land allocation of 90 hectares just to the south of the A45. That's been designated as a growth zone through joint work with the combined authority colleagues. And it also contains Arden Cross, the triangle of sited 140 hectares where the HS2 interchange station will be constructed. So it's already really important in terms of its contribution to the region. When HS2 comes along and that site is developed and further development comes forward at the NEC, its impact will be significantly increased. In order for that to be realised, there needs to be investment in a whole range of infrastructure to facilitate effectively that expansion and make sure it's effective as possible. It's also really important that that is done in a way that reflects the relationships that Solihull's got with other parts of the West Midlands. So John was just talking about the relationship through the UK Central Plus programme into Coventry and Warwickshire. The investment in the North Solihull element of the package is really important in terms of the relationship with East Birmingham and East Birmingham North Solihull, the corridor and the joint growth zone and draft investment strategy that we've got with Birmingham colleagues in that respect. So that's a really important part of the package too. And then Solihull Town Centre in particular is an important area. And the work that's been done there has very much facilitated the latest position on that, which I'll talk about in a moment, which is really exciting from an economic development perspective. So if you go on then, please, Alex. The next slide, Councillor Slazak's to introduce. So in terms of the overall original devolution agreement and the funding that was considered to be necessary or available at that time to deliver on those commitments or that ambition. The HS2 growth strategy element of that too, we're sitting there at 4.4 overall in terms of estimated impact. As part of that, UK Central programmes, plural, was deemed to be requiring £636 million. What we're talking about today is part of the £288 million. That's the UK Central Infrastructure Programme. So just to explain the two packages, there are two figures on there. The 348 million related to the interchange infrastructure. That's particularly where the HS2 station is going. It's that tight area of land around Arden Cross, around the NEC, and the enabling infrastructure investment in that point. The infrastructure package, the 288, and I say elements of that are in the presentation that we're delivering today, is very much about connecting into that very sort of tightly focused geographical area. It's about spreading the impact broader and wider and making it more effective. There are three main elements. I won't go into any detail on this, but on the left-hand side of the slide, what that's setting out is investment effectively in connectivity. So it's in new highways, it's in active travel, it's in upgraded environmental schemes and things that we've got going on there. It's about releasing capacity. It's about investing in Solihull Station and making that a truly multimodal facility that connects into Sprint investment. And then on the right-hand side, there's a range of effectively placemaking interventions, whether that's Chelmsley Wood Town Centre or the regeneration project, Simon Diggory and a number of others. And Solihull Town Centre is part of that too. And then at the bottom, the clean inclusive growth bit was just effectively looking forward. This scheme will see development into the 2040s. And what we wanted to make sure we were doing was considering all of the environmental issues, considering all of the changing nature of mobility. So you'll see that in the programme, we've got a significant focus on connected and autonomous vehicles. And we're probably one of the leading authorities in the country who's thinking about that and delivering that on a test, a practical test basis. And that's to make sure that we're planning our infrastructure in a way that can accommodate that future trend and changing nature of movement. And there's a very, very strong focus on that as well in terms of social value, to make sure that the private sector investment that this is enabling is coming forward in a way that maximises that impact to Solihull and to the region. So that's the package in its broadest structure. I'll hand over to Alex now, who's going to go very briefly through some of the key projects. Obviously, we won't spend a long time on each one. We can come back to questions on any particular instances you might have.
Okay, thank you. We prepared a rebasing change request for the programme back in June. Should probably stress it's kind of non-material technical change request, which reschedules the individual business case reporting timelines. There's specifically no material changes of scope to the benefits that have been delivered or additional cost funding ask from the Combined Authority resulting from this change request. It's been necessary for a number of reasons over the last 18 months, particularly picking up on some of the things that have been discussed, the uncertainty around HS2, changing stakeholder requirements and some of the challenges we've had around inflation packaging pressures that meant we've needed to look at kind of rephasing projects to align with alternate sources of funding, recognising the limited availability of investment programme funding at this time, prioritising resources to maintain momentum across the overall programme. I should probably just note a separate change request is being prepared for the accelerated housing work streams following the recent withdrawal of the Solihull local plan, but that will come to a future meeting. So to very briefly,
I think what we'll do is, if there are any questions on the individual items as we go through, rather than waiting till the end, are there any questions on that particular piece of information that we've received? No. Just to ask when we can expect that change request, I suppose.
it's being prepared at the moment,
Okay, so within the next month or so.
a few months.
Thanks.
We've got to go through our own governance
Yeah.
processes first.
Thank you. Sorry, I'll stop you there.
So to give a very brief overview of the rebased projects within the infrastructure programme, and specifically pulling out the delivery and with the current status of those. So delivered a number of projects. Our award-winning Wildlife Ways programme, delivering almost 24 kilometres of new green cycleway, significant creation of green infrastructure across the borough, connecting parks and urban centres, coupled with a sustainable business support programme. That was a £16 million programme, of which the investment programme supported a couple of million. We've delivered a Birmingham Business Park Southern Access. The IP funding allowed us to unlock significant private sector funding for investment to deliver this key piece of resilience and for one of our key regional economic assets.
Sorry, can I just say that both of these are down for site visits in December?
Yeah.
Obviously, part of this is about PR for the combined authority, isn't it, in actually helping to deliver these schemes. I'm just wondering how we're going to deal with that. Ins out of the room.
We would have, at the time of completion of the projects, done PR at the time. I think it's more of the visiting is more monitoring for the final close of these projects.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from anywhere else? Okay.
Solihull Town Centre access improvements. We're delivering the first phase of improvements along Station Approach, and we're developing the business cases for those wider access improvements across the town centres. Kingshurst Village Centre redevelopment. We've delivered the first phase of 25 net zero homes, and we're working with colleagues at the Combined Authority to bring forward and partners to bring forward a package of funding for phase 2, which is the community health and retail complex, and we're looking to bring a business case forward to that next year. Simon Digby Housing, we've appointed our development partner, Vistry Group, to deliver 177 affordable net zero homes. We're in pre-planning consultation at the moment, with a planning application due to be submitted towards the end of the year. Again, the investment programme funding has been key to kind of unlocking that, de-risking the programme to allow that private sector investment. Chelmsford Wood Town Centre, we're developing a master plan to bring forward the development in association with the inclusive growth zone. So again, that's the outline business case is being prepared for that at the moment. We've done significant master planning, and we're working with the local centre owners. Damson Parkway junction improvements, again, key gateway into the UK central hub area and a key economic assets. We have accelerated delivery through the CRUST programme, and we'll be submitting a full business case for the project before the end of the year, with hopefully construction starting in the middle of next year. Chester Road improvements. Again, we've undertaken the design development through to outline business case, and that was just approved this month to take forward through to FBC and into delivery through the CRUST programme. Hub access modelling and transport modelling, obviously with kind of changes to demand, potentially with HS2 and developments coming forward. This one's taken a little while to bring forward, but we'll be submitting a strategic outline case associated with that, those connectivity interventions that are required to maintain access between the hub area, the wider UK central growth areas, and the wider region. That should be submitted before the end of the year. We've developed our integrated walking and cycling LC WIP plan. We are developing outline business cases for the first 2 routes of that, currently out to consultation. We'll be looking to submit OBCs through the CRUST's programme for delivery by March 2027, early in the new year. Solihull Town Centre public realm, with the amount of development that we are looking at within the town centre, it's really key to make sure we've got a strategic framework around how we approach public realm, and that's done in a consistent manner. So we developed our public realm strategy, and we're bringing forward the first phase of design scheme along the high street. Again, outline business case submission will be in March next year. Solihull Integrated Transport Hub, we've got funding identified through the CRUST programme to take this forward, submitted an outline business case, working with partners, Network Rail and the TOC, and colleagues in Transport for West Midlands and the Rail Exec, to bring this project forward through the next stages of design development through this phase of CRUST's development funding. Solihull Town Centre Low Carbon Energy Network, again, key piece of infrastructure to allow the development that we're looking at within the town centre to come forward and to be low carbon. We've secured significant funding from government to deliver this kind of innovative project, and secured investment from the council itself. We have awarded design, build, operate, maintain contract. Works are now on site, and we're driving this one forward for completion in early 2026. And the investment programme funding was key to releasing that and securing that investment. Perry mentioned earlier our low carbon future mobility programme, looking at a layered multimodal trials, looking at the future of transport. We've secured significant investment from government and Innovate UK in a series of CAV trials with our partners across the region and within the UK central hub area. As was mentioned earlier, it's really been key to ensure that as we bring in this development and growth forward, that it is low carbon. So we've developed our net zero action plan, ensuring net zero is embedded within all the projects across the programme, and we're working very closely with government to look, and partners at the Combined Authority, to look at the requirements around energy infrastructure, particularly at the hub with the amount of growth which is going on. And again, cutting across the overall programme, we're piloting social value and delivery. we've looked to integrate that within the programme. We're looking to move as we move forward through into business as usual activity. Again, significant delivery of local jobs and training, local growth through the supply chain, and social and environmental benefits within the local community. Got some of the kind of the ongoing figures of delivery there. What we look to do is extend that through the early phases of construction that we're now very much in. And I'll hand back to Perry.
Alex, thank you, Joe. Just very brief concluding comments. I hope top of the board to see the progress really in terms of delivery. So although this is primarily a programme about enabling investment from the private sector and public partners, it also contains a significant amount of delivery. And what's tended to happen is that we've used this enabling funding through the investment package to access them funding from others to bring the delivery forward on the ground. And in terms of the leverage of that, I think it's actually very significant. So that's a key point really in terms of the role of the investment package from Solihull's perspective. We've had significant investment from Homes England, for example, a Brownfield Land Remediation Fund, CCAV, the government's agency around autonomous vehicles, is investing heavily. It also enabled us to access a lot of European funds in the last couple of years of the programme as well. So thank you for that. But also you'll see the private investment in particular around Birmingham Business Park. I think it's easy to sort of underestimate that. The funding package there was around £80,000. That business park is right in the centre of where all the HS2 investment is going. Goes back to the point you were making earlier, Chair, about the complexities around that. You've got thousands of people accessing that park every day. You've got some very major players. And we were able to make the case with those funds earlier on that if something wasn't done, then the resilience of that park was really under threat whilst HS2's works were taking place. That work effectively enabled us to make the case to the private sector for them to invest and put that in. So it's a huge return in terms of the investment that the investment programme's made. And equally with Simon Digby, as Alex has said, that's now in partnership in place for the delivery of those homes. The enabling work has been fantastic through the investment programme to get to the point where we de-risk the market and take it on and run with it. So yeah, answer any questions that you or your colleagues may have. Thank you.
Don't know whether that gives us the degree of comfort we were looking for, and particularly Karen, new to the board. Do we have any questions at all? Karen.
I think that's a very thorough presentation. My original question was about the presentation of the risks rather than any particular project.
I'll throw up to Ian to come in on that one.
Yeah, thanks very much, colleagues from Solihull, in terms of presenting that. I know there's an awful lot of work that goes into these, but then it's an awful lot of money. So kind of to do that's good. I'm hoping that we will get a bit of bang for bucks from the slides you've done, because it's exactly the sort of thing that when we talk to them HCLG, they want to see.
Absolutely.
And it's really hard to get that. And I think, Perry, you might be the poster child for the investment programme for what you said, because it is about funding stuff at an enabling stage that then attracts money later on. And that sort of funding just hasn't been available within the region. Allowing that money to come in and leverage more is really great, but where on earth would local authorities and indeed the FCA as a regional body get that from if it wasn't for the investment programme?
It's a very good point. And yeah, a very detailed presentation. And I think in terms of giving us some reassurance, that's exactly what you have done. I don't know whether. Yeah.
Well, only to say, I think what this does is something we've been asking for quite some time, to understand exactly those elements on the programme which are red rated and where we go from here. And I think what this does, of course, is identifies the rephasing proposals. That's what we've been asked to consider today. I mean, the issue of risk, in essence, will come through the strategic outline case, the OBCs and the full business case, which we'll obviously see at some point in time in the future. So it is just a position statement on where things are. And I think it says in the report at 4.3, there are no material changes to scope or additional costs to WMCA. Notwithstanding, we do need to see those SOCs, OBCs, full business case to actually agree them. So there's quite a way to go yet, but at least we've got a programme of when those proposals will be coming through, and therefore I think it gives us some assurance that there is progress being made. Certainly some of them. I mean, I'm not going to comment on them all. I know most of them intimately, but Progress Way, Birmingham Business Park, you cannot understand the impact that's had for £80,000 to unlock that and get the funding in. If you've ever been to Birmingham Business Park before we developed Progress Way, it's absolutely jammed every night with thousands of people trying to get off it. That is not the case today. And the relationship it has with HS2 and the junctions there around that are important.
Thank you, Paul. We have just gone slightly over, but can I at this stage take 2 minutes silence, please?
So,
Okay, thank you. I think you've summed that up really well in terms of where the combined authority are with this. There's some very innovative and exciting projects there, which this region is known for innovation, and that's right across from Coventry to the Black Country. And Solihull is ideally placed to, with the land availability, to actually move some of this forward. And it's excellent what we're seeing. Mark, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. You did touch anecdotally there, or tongue in cheek, on Perry being the poster boy as such, but I don't think we've made enough of the 80,000 investment, initial 80,000 investment. What sort of magnitude has that been leveraged to in terms of the investment in this? Because that is a very, very key point in terms of public money being used to attract private money. And probably we haven't done it justice in terms of the magnitude of that. So it'd be useful if we had some figures on 80 gets 8 million, gets 10 million, whatever it may be, instead of just the adjective significant.
We can certainly provide further information on that, Chair, and thank you for the question. There is a lot of detail behind all of these. Obviously, we've just very quickly skipped over it, but I think picking up on the discussion this morning, we'll take that further. We have done some work on it based on the close down of the project and the evaluation of its success. But you're right, I don't think we articulated it as clearly as we could have done. And I think at a programme level, we've not quite got to that stage either, but we work on that in the context of Ian's comments as well and yours. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have to say, I think the PR and comms behind this is really, really important. I think, Solihull is part of the wider West Midlands, but you've referred to the Birmingham Business Park, and it reflects on Birmingham is the second city, and we need some positive reflection of the area. Whether that's by reflecting from what's Solihull's investment, at the end of the day, we need good news stories for the area as a whole and our Sigma City. That's my feeling. So please can we get as much PR going out there in relation to the combined authority and what we're achieving. Okay. Any comments from anyone else? No. Right, we just go back to the recommendation, if you don't mind. They're both denoting, does everybody accept the recommendations? Thank you very much for the thorough presentation, it was really good, thank you. Right. We go to item 7 then with the dashboards, and Ian's not here, so sorry.
It's not here, Ed is covering.
Can I ask Ed Bradley, please? Yeah.
Yeah, this is for items 7, 8 and 9, dashboards for SIF, RIF and BLPDF for noting, and we'll cover off in more detail in private session.
Okay, everybody happy to get going to private session at that point then?
Yeah.
Okay, the purposes of the legislation involved are now asked for the exclusion of the public and press, please. And in accordance with section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business, as they're likely to involve the disclosure of exempt information as specified in the paragraphs of the Act. Thank you.